Hi guys, Bob Robinson here of the Robinson Twins. April 22nd, 2020 was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And to honor that anniversary, we'd like to share these tips for living an environmentally friendly lifestyle.
And I'm Rick of the Robinson Twins. Now just because we're talking about the 50th anniversary of Earth Day and honoring that, you should know that if you're living an environmentally friendly lifestyle, you already know that Earth Day is every day.
First off, if you're watching this video, we'd like to thank you for your interest in the subject and hopefully a desire to do what you can to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle. So the first thing to think about is that aside from toxic material that can be very impactful to you and the environment in small quantities, your environmental impact is largely determined by the mass of stuff you consume and therefore the mass of stuff that you have to dispose of. So one of the first things you have to think about is give major consideration to the major purchases that you make. And the first major purchase you need to give consideration to, which involves a lot of mass, is a house. A house represents, for most people, the largest mass of something that they purchase at any one time. A lot of material goes into a house, and therefore there's a lot of environmental impacts that come with that.
One thing you can do for your home is check with your local utilities and find out if they have energy or water upgrades for your home so you can use fewer resources. Some examples of energy upgrades can include insulation, weather stripping, dual pane windows, and some things that can do both energy and water are low flow shower heads.
If you are in the market for a new house, make sure that you don't buy one on the outskirts of your urban area, because those developments tend to encourage urban sprawl, or actually part of the urban area sprawling outward into natural areas or agricultural areas. Try to buy a house that's part of an infill development or is closer to the center of the city. Another big consideration for the location of the house, if you're in the market for one, is buy a house that's close to where you work or work close to where you live. Now the effect of that, of course, is it keeps your commutes shorter. You could possibly walk or bike if it's close enough, take mass transit, or if you do have a car to commute by, it'll keep your distances shorter, which means you'll use less fuel and pollute the air less, and you'll also be spending less time and distance on the highways or the streets, so that you'll be contributing less to traffic congestion. And traffic congestion, of course, makes fuel waste and air pollution worse. Now, if you are in the market for a new house, don't get one that's bigger than you really need, because, of course, the bigger the house, the more material went into constructing it, and the greater the impact to the environment. And of course, the other thing about getting a house that's bigger than you really need is bigger houses take more energy to heat and cool to keep comfortable. Also, if you're in the market for a new house, don't get one that has a fireplace, because fireplaces tend to be rather inefficient. They don't really add that much heat to your living space compared to how much smoke they put out or how much energy they take. So of course, most of the new houses that are built and sold in the United States are made with wood framing. There's not a whole lot of choice in that. Now, of course, on the positive side, wood framing is made from trees. And while they're growing, the trees take carbon dioxide and even other pollutants out of the air while they're growing. And then when they're cut down and made into lumber and then used to build houses, they kind of represent a form of carbon storage. Now, of course, the downside to wood-framed houses is that we've put a lot of pressure on our forests, including old-growth forests, so that there's very little old-growth forest left, which means the plants and animals that are dependent on that habitat have very little left and are frequently threatened and endangered. There are a number of alternative, eco-friendly housing construction methods that you might want to take a look at. For starters, there's something that's very popular now is tiny homes. Now, tiny homes are basically like regular homes, but they're much smaller, which means they take up less material. Now, the definition of a tiny home is is a house that is smaller than 400 square feet in floor area. Now, of course, they have all the features of a regular house, and they can be built in the same conventional way as a wood-framed house. It's just that they're smaller, so they take less material. But they have all the amenities of a regular house. Another alternative is steel-framed houses. Now, they're built very similarly to the wood-framed houses, but instead of wood for the framing, they use steel. And according to one source, steel framing for houses can have as much as 60% recycled content, which means that the metal that used to be part of a car can now be part of your house. Another eco-friendly alternative housing material is straw bales. Now, straw bales are an agricultural byproduct that there's not a whole lot of use for, but you can build houses out of it. So because of the thickness of the straw bales, they're very good insulators for both heat transfer and sound. And they also represent a form of carbon storage, because of course while the plant was growing, it's taking carbon dioxide out of the air. Another eco-friendly alternative building material are soil-based materials called cob or adobe. Now they're both based on clay, and the great thing about cob or adobe as building materials is potentially the soil right on the building site where you want to build your house can be used for the material to make that house out of. Another alternative building technique would be dome homes. Now, dome homes, because of their shape, represent the least amount of material for the maximum amount of volume that's enclosed by the building material. And because of that, the shape itself is very strong. So it can be made out of wood, but if you make it out of steel with concrete for the exterior, then it can withstand things like tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, and even fires. One final suggestion we have for alternative eco-friendly housing is possibly become a full-time RVer, get a trailer or a motorhome. Now, they can be kind of not eco-friendly because they do represent additional fuel use to move around in, but they also represent tiny homes on wheels. So if you're comfortable with living full-time in a trailer or motorhome, it has the potential. It has the potential to be an eco-friendly lifestyle. And if you are thinking about getting a trailer or motorhome to live in full-time, think about getting a used one first, because that represents reuse of a product, like the environmentalist motto, reduce, reuse, recycle. Buying used represents reuse. Now, the second most mass of a purchase that most people make is an automobile. Automobiles do have a great environmental impact, not just because of the materials that go into making them, but also they're one of the things that allows urban sprawl to happen, because an automobile makes it convenient for a lot of people to live far away from where they work, which of course means more fuel use, more air pollution, and especially if it leads to more traffic congestion, that's even additional fuel waste and additional air pollution on top of just the distance that a commuter is covering. So it would be part of an environmentally friendly lifestyle if you can get to work, do your commute by walking, biking, or taking mass transit. If you are thinking about buying a car, think about getting a good used one first. Like I said before, the environmentalist motto, reduce, reuse, recycle. Buying a used car represents reuse. In fact, it might be one of the most important forms of reuse. And just like with the house, don't get one that's too big for what you need. Same thing with cars or automobiles. Don't get a vehicle that's bigger than you need. Now, you could get a vehicle that's suitable for your needs 90 to 95% of the time, and then just rent if you need extra hauling capacity, like from a truck or a van. If you are thinking about getting a new car, look into getting an electric vehicle first. There are a lot more models to choose from than ever before. Their costs have come down, and electric vehicle charging stations are now more widely available than they've ever been, and they're increasing in availability. And of course, one of the great things about electric vehicles is when you're done doing your day of driving and it's sitting in your garage, you can plug it in and it can be charging overnight so that by the next morning when you're ready to go out again, you have a full charge to work with. And of course, the great thing about electric vehicles is they don't pollute while you're driving. Now, of course, in some places in the country, that electricity is generated by burning coal, but it could just as easily be created by solar, wind, and various other hydroelectric, for instance, sources, so that you could be running your vehicle off of renewable energy sources. And that's one of the things that electric vehicles makes possible. Now, if an electric car doesn't work for you, check the EPA's fuel economy guides to see the vehicle that's the most energy efficient for your needs. Another area that involves a lot of mass that you for a major purchase is your major appliances in your house. Dishwasher, clothes washer, dryer, refrigerator, for instance. Now check the Energy Star guides on those to see that you're getting the most efficient ones. But first think about whether you need it or not. If you're in a small apartment and you just have like 1 or 2 people in it, you may not need a dishwasher. You just wash the dishes in your sink all the time and let them dry in a drying rack, and that's good enough. So think about whether you need it or not. And besides getting energy efficient appliances, also look for those that are water conserving. Like if it's a dishwasher or clothes washer, do they have a way to some feature that helps conserve water? Now the thing is, for clothes washers, you could get a front-loading washer instead of a top-loading one. And the advantage to front-loading washers is besides taking less energy, they also use less water to wash your clothes. And because the front-loading drum is tilted instead of straight vertical, it's possible for them to spin at a higher revolution, at higher RPMs, so that the clothes that they finish washing can get drier because it spins more of the moisture out of the clothing. And that means you're going to take less energy to dry them in your dryer because they come out of the washer at a drier state than a conventional top-loading washer is capable of. And for your dishwasher and clothes washer, make sure you're getting eco-friendly formulations for your detergents. So besides the fact that a front-loading clothes washer is water conserving, make sure that other elements of your household are also water conserving, like aerators on your faucets, low-flow shower heads, and water-conserving toilets. So if you're thinking about getting yard equipment, get the electric versions, like electric mowers, electric edgers, electric leaf blowers. Some come with cords, they have to plug them in, but there also are increasingly available cordless rechargeable yard equipment like leaf blowers and so on. So go with those first because they're electric, they can be powered from renewable sources. Another area of environmental impact would be things like power boats and jet skis, which tend to be powered by 2-stroke engines. And the disadvantage to 2-stroke engines is, besides burning gasoline, they also burn oil, as they actually have to mix oil in the gasoline for them to work. But that means that they put out a lot of smoke. Instead of power boats and jet skis, think about getting canoes, kayaks, pedal boats, stand-up paddle boards, that kind of thing, to get out on the water. That way you're getting a little bit of exercise and you still get to enjoy water sports. Another thing you might buy for your household are, in terms of recreational equipment, are things like dirt bikes. Again, a lot of those are powered by 2-stroke engines, which means they're burning oil and gas and really kicking out a lot of smoke. So instead of those, think about getting something like mountain bikes, otherwise known as all-terrain bikes, ATVs, mountain bikes, so that you're still getting out into the wilds and getting exercise too, and not polluting the air while you do it. So far we've looked at what you might call your major purchases, but now let's look at things you consume on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly. Your regular consumables. And the thing to keep in mind again is the motto, reduce, reuse, recycle. The most important thing, first of all, reduce the amount of stuff you consume. The less stuff you consume, the less your environmental impact. So the first thing to do is ask yourself, what can you do without? Or what need or want arises in you could be met by something you already have. Take an inventory of what you already have and see if, oh, hey, I could meet that need or want, desire with something that was already in my possession, so that you don't have to go out and buy something new to meet that desire. And when you do purchase something, try to reuse it if you can, especially like containers. Plastic and glass, they can be reused, so try to reuse those as much as possible, so that you don't just consume something one time and then just throw it away, the old disposable mentality. And of course the third thing is recycling. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And of those three, recycling is actually the least important, but it is still important. So make sure that your city or community takes recycling, and make sure that you know what kinds of things they recycle. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the greatest items or categories of items in our municipal waste streams are paper and paperboard, food and yard waste, and plastics. So try to make sure that when you do buy things that you get the minimal amount of packaging on them as possible. Make sure that you're not wasteful of food. Only take as much as you're going to eat at any one time, or make sure it's stored properly in the refrigerator or freezer. And compost what you can of your food waste, or your trimmings like grass and branch trimmings from your landscape. Compost those as much as possible. And make sure that if your city or community takes yard waste, that they're doing the composting, or they're chipping woody products so that they can use it in landscaping, so that it does get reused somehow. And of course the third thing, the major category of waste, is plastics. Avoid plastics as much as possible. Another way to reduce your environmental impact on things that you regularly consume are eat less food. A lot of Americans are overweight, they eat too much. We know that's unhealthy. It's not only unhealthy for you, it's also unhealthy for the environment. So try to eat less food, and even for people who are at a healthy weight, eating just a little bit less food actually can increase longevity. Studies have shown that a calorie-restricted diet can increase longevity. And so if you're restricting your calories, you're probably also reducing your environmental impact. Another thing to think about in terms of your diet is try to reduce how much meat you consume. If you could go vegetarian or vegan, that actually reduces your environmental impact. But also if you're not going to become a vegetarian or vegan, at least reduce how much meat you consume. The less meat you consume, put it as a side dish instead of the main course, it reduces your environmental impact. And that's because something like 70% of the agricultural land on this in the United States is used to grow crops that are then fed to livestock. So it's not feeding you directly, it's feeding the animals first, and then you consume the animals. And of course another way to reduce your environmental impact from the foods you consume are buy organic as much as possible. Organic agricultural systems tend to build up the soil, whereas the traditional or more widespread conventional heavy chemical fertilizer pesticide system tends to tear down the soil. And so for a healthy environment, we want good healthy soils, which means build them up with organic methods.
If you're going to consume seafood, make sure that it's sustainable. You can check labels, or you can check websites based on the different species that are consumed. And sustainability means that the population is not being depleted.
And if you're not going to become a vegetarian, also think about, besides buying organic food and sustainable seafood, also think about buying bison meat. Now bison, of course, used to thrive across our prairies in the millions. There's only a few thousands left now, but it's a growing industry to raise bison for their meat. And so what we'd like to see is that business thrive, so that more of of the prairies can be restored and more of the bison can live on the prairies that they used to live on, that their range will expand, their numbers will increase. And you can help that by buying and consuming bison meat. So another way to live an eco-friendly lifestyle is to buy more of those things that help the environment. We already mentioned the organic foods, sustainable seafood, the bison meat, but also buy organic fibers like organic cotton and hemp fiber, like this t-shirt has organic cotton and hemp in it. But also bamboo fibers. Besides providing an environmentally friendly fiber, hemp, also the hemp seeds are also a good nutritious source of essential fatty acids and is a good source of protein. So among your regular consumables, make sure you don't consume toxic materials like bleaches and pesticides, herbicides, that kind of thing. Don't consume products made from endangered species either. We don't want to contribute to the extinction of a whole species of life. And if you do have toxic materials to dispose of, make sure that your community has a household hazardous waste collection center that you can take it to so that they can dispose of it properly for you. And another way to do a really big favor for yourself and the environment is don't smoke or vape tobacco products. It's bad for you, it's bad for the environment. Tobacco is the only product we can think of that when you use it as directed, it can sicken you and even kill you. So don't use it. Another way to help the environment is be a leader. Set the example for yourself. You're on this journey, and it's a journey, not a destination. You're on this journey to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle. Let other people know that you're on this journey. Be a leader for them so that you're setting an example for them, and by letting them know that you're on this journey, maybe they'll come up with some tips that you didn't think about that you can incorporate into your own lifestyle and be farther along the way toward reducing your environmental impact. And also join environmental groups. That way, as part of the group, you can have an impact on improving the environment on a national, even global scale. Another important thing to do to help fortify your desire to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle is immerse yourself in nature on a regular basis. Go for hikes, backpacks, trips, biking, canoeing, kayaking, whatever gets you out into nature so you can enjoy its beauty, and remind yourself of why you want to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle. It's so that nature, the plants and the animals, the habitats, can all interact the way they're supposed to with us humans as part of the system rather than destructive to the system. So get out there when you can. National forests, national parks, state parks, public parks, waterways. Get out there and enjoy nature. Thanks for watching this Robinson Twins video about living an environmentally friendly lifestyle.
If you like the video you just watched, be sure to like and subscribe.
And remember, good planets are hard to find, so let's take care of the one we're on.